Sign it, and let's be done. Isabella's voice cut through the quiet of our Miami office. She stood over the desk, arms crossed. An absolute, final stance. Her lawyer, Diego, offered a slight smirk. Young, arrogant, wearing a suit that cost more than his first car. He placed a heavy Mont Blanc pen on the stack of papers, nudging it toward me. It's just a formality, Mateo, Diego said, his tone aggressively patronizing. Asset protection. A simple transfer of authority. You'll retain access, just not control. Given the current market volatility. He trailed off. My market. The buildings I had built from foundations of dust and broken contracts. I stared silently at the signature line. The paper was thick, expensive. The ink was black and final. Isabella was losing patience. I could hear the sharp tap of her heel on the floor. Mateo, don't turn this into a drama. This is for us. It's to protect what we built. She was lying. She hadn't built anything. She had only spent. Diego tapped the pen against the desk again, a rhythmic click-click-click designed to unnerve. We can do this the hard way, Mateo. We can file for an injunction based on fiduciary neglect. Trust me, you don't want that kind of public fight. I'll sign, I interrupted. The tapping stopped. Silence. They glanced at each other, surprise flashing between them. They had prepared for a siege. They expected arguments, yelling, bargaining. They got surrender. I picked up their pen. Slowly, clearly, I wrote my name. I didn't just sign. I executed it, the way I had been taught. A signature that was both an ending and a beginning. I picked up the sheets, squared them neatly on the desk, and held them out to Diego. He snatched them, victory tightening his smirk. There, I said, my voice even. You got what you wanted. I stood, pushed the chair in quietly, the legs scraping softly on the wood floor, and walked out of the room. I did not look back. Behind me, I heard Diego's nervous chuckle turn into a full laugh. Well, that was easier than I thought. He just folded. The distinct pop of a cork, followed by the clink of glasses. Isabella laughed, a high, sharp sound of relief. I told you he's weak. He's just a carpenter, Diego. He was always weak. I walked down the hallway. By the time I reached the garage, the real papers, the ones I had signed 3 days ago, were already in a waterproof sleeve inside my messenger bag. The sheet I handed Diego, that wasn't his document. It was mine. A perfect, useless duplicate, save for one crucial, embedded flaw. I pulled the car onto the hot, bright Miami street. My phone chimed, a single, pre-programmed notification. The GPS was set for a nondescript office building in Broward County, an address she never knew existed. I wasn't running. I was delivering. Cut back to the office, 10 minutes later. Diego reviewed the papers again, sipping a celebratory whiskey. Perfect. He signed everything. The power of attorney, the transfer of control. It's all under her control. Under our control, Isabella corrected, running a finger along the lapel of his expensive suit. Now, about your fee. All in good time, Diego smiled, but something was bothering him. He looked at the signature page again. The notarial stamp code. It looked right, but that was too easy. He didn't even read the writers. He's scared, Diego. He's just an old builder who got lucky. He doesn't understand these things. Yeah, Diego muttered. Maybe. He opened his laptop. Just want to check one thing. Due diligence. He didn't use a public search. He logged into LexisNexis, the database corporate lawyers use to see the things people try to hide. He typed in the name, Mateo Alejandro Reyes. The system hung for a moment. Then the results populated. It wasn't a short file. What is it? Isabella asked, pouring herself more champagne. Did you find his hidden bank account? He didn't answer. He was scrolling. Fast. Clicking links. His face went from pale to sick. Not builder. Not contractor. License. Forensic liquidator. Asset restructuring specialist. Hostile takeovers. Certified. Delaware and Wyoming. Associated cases. Dissolution of Denver Holdings. Astratech liquidation plan. Valerian Trust restructure. Keynote speaker. Corporate counterintelligence. Legal frameworks for internal threats. Diego slowly closed the laptop. The clack of the device shutting was loud in the quiet room. The whiskey glass trembled violently in his hand, ice rattling against the crystal. Diego, you're scaring me. What did you find? He looked up at her, his manufactured confidence completely gone, replaced by raw, professional terror. Isabella, he whispered, his voice cracking. The man you just tried to scam. He's the one they hire to dismantle people like us. Who the hell did you marry? The clack of Diego's laptop shutting was the only sound in the office. Isabella stared at him, the champagne glass frozen halfway to her lips. What do you mean? Who did I marry? She snapped, her confidence wavering. He's a carpenter. I saw the invoices for the decking, the receipts from Home Depot. He spent 3 years fixing bathrooms in Coral Gables. Diego was already on his feet, pacing. He wasn't smirking anymore. He was sweating. You saw what he wanted you to see. Forensic liquidator. That's not a builder. That's a corporate undertaker, Isabella. He's the guy they call when a billion-dollar company is about to be torn apart by vultures. He doesn't stop the vultures. He is the vulture. So what? She shouted. He's clever. It doesn't matter. He signed a paper. You're my witness. We have him. Do we? Diego's voice was thin. He grabbed the document Mateo had signed. He ripped it from its staple and held the last page up to the light. His eyes scanned the notarial stamp at the bottom. No. No. No, no. What? The stamp, he whispered, his finger tracing the embossed seal. The commission code. It's 9A47B. The real estate code is 9A48B. He threw the paper on the desk. It's a fake. It's a high-quality, worthless piece of paper. He didn't sign our document. He brought a forgery. He gave us a copy. The blood drained from Isabella's face. Which means? It means, Diego said, grabbing his briefcase, that he didn't just react to us. He anticipated us. He has his own document. He was just waiting for us to make the first move. He wanted witnesses. Isabella's panic finally broke through her arrogance. She grabbed her phone. Fine. I'll freeze the joint accounts. Right now, he can't move faster than a wire transfer. She dialed the private banking line, skipping the automated menu. This is Isabella Reyes, she said, her voice sharp and commanding. I need an immediate hold placed on all joint assets linked to Mateo Alejandro Reyes. Account number ending in 9090. The banker on the other end was polite, calm, and unshakable. One moment, Mrs. Reyes. I see the accounts. However, I'm afraid I cannot process that request. What do you mean you can't? I have a durable power of attorney. We just filed it. I see a different filing, ma'am, the banker said, his tone still perfectly neutral. A primary directive was actioned 32 days ago. All joint assets, including the brokerage accounts and the title for the Miami property, were consolidated into the Wyoming Phoenix Trust. Wyoming? We've never been to Wyoming. That's fraudulent. Revoke it. I'm afraid I cannot, Mrs. Reyes. The trust is registered in Wyoming, which has a pause, the sound of a key being typed. Very specific privacy and asset protection laws. Your cosigner status was officially revoked by the trust's executor. Who? She hissed. Who is the executor? One moment. Ah, here it is. The executor is listed as E. Reyes. E. Reyes? That's his daughter. Elena. She's just a paralegal. According to our files, ma'am, Elena Reyes is a member of the Wyoming Bar and the primary agent for the trust. Furthermore, it seems the trust's hostile action clause was triggered. Isabella felt her stomach drop. What? What does that mean? It means that as of another click. Approximately 30 minutes ago, your access has been downgraded from spousal resident to external party. I'm afraid I can no longer discuss the details of this account with you. Thank you for calling, the banker said. The line clicked dead. Isabella didn't wait for Diego. She ran from the office, leaving him standing among the champagne glasses. She tore through the city, her hands shaking on the steering wheel. He can't lock me out of my own home. He can't. She screeched the car into the driveway of the massive, glass-and-steel house she had spent 2 years designing. She ran to the front door, jamming her key fob against the sensor. Beep. A red light flashed. Access denied. She frantically typed the numeric code into the keypad. Beep, 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 beep. Error. System locked. No. She fumbled for the physical key, jammed it into the lock, and it wouldn't turn. The tumblers were new. The locks had been changed. She pounded on the heavy glass door with both fists. Mateo, open this door. I know you're in there. Mateo. The door hissed open. But it wasn't Mateo. A young woman stood there. Calm, professional, wearing a simple, practical blazer. She was holding a tablet. Isabella recognized her instantly. Elena, his daughter. The one she'd called to help at a family dinner 2 years ago. Can I help you? Elena asked, her voice flat. Who the hell are you? Isabella shrieked, trying to mask her recognition. Get out of my house. I'm afraid you're mistaken, Elena said, not moving an inch. This isn't your house. It hasn't been for over a month. My name is Elena Reyes. I am the executor of the trust that owns this property. Isabella tried to push past her. I'm calling the police. Elena didn't flinch. She simply angled her body to block the doorway. I wouldn't recommend that. The new security detail is already on site. They are authorized to treat intruders as a physical threat. I am the police's point of contact. Isabella looked past Elena. In the foyer, where her $50,000 sculpture used to be, stood two large men in simple black shirts. They were not looking at her. They were watching the street. Your residency access, Elena continued, checking her tablet, was terminated at 9:15 a.m. this morning, concurrent with your attempt to illegally seize control of the trust's assets. My things are in there. My clothes. My art. The trust has taken a full video inventory of all your personal belongings, Elena said. They are being packed and will be moved to a secure storage unit. You will be billed for the first month. You are permitted to schedule a time to retrieve them. Please have your lawyer contact my office. Elena held out a business card. It read, Reyes and Reyes, Asset Management and Dissolution. Isabella just stared at it, her hand frozen in the air. Have a good day, Elena said. The door shut with a heavy, final click. The deadbolt slid home. Isabella was left standing on the immaculate stone porch, alone. A moment later, the automated sprinkler system hissed to life, casting a wide arc of water across the lawn, forcing her to scramble backward off the property. Isabella stood on the curb, the spray from the sprinklers soaking the hem of her silk blouse. The water was cold, a shocking contrast to the burning humiliation. She was locked out, not by a simple builder, but by an executor. By Elena. She fumbled for her phone, her fingers trembling with rage. She dialed Diego. He locked me out. She shrieked, not waiting for a greeting. His daughter is here. She's at the house. She changed the locks. Call the police. File an injunction. Freeze. Isabella, shut up. Diego's voice was not the smooth, confident tone from an hour ago. It was high-pitched, thin. Stop talking. Where are you? I'm on the street. Where do you think I am? What do we do? We do nothing, he hissed. Don't talk to her. Don't talk to anyone. I'm looking at the incorporation records. Reyes and Reyes Asset Management. It's not new, Isabella. It's 5 years old. It's been lying dormant, waiting. I don't care if it's 50 years old. He can't just. Yes, he can, Diego shouted. You told me he handled the finances. You told me he was conservative. Did you ever read the documents he had you sign? The tax filings? The trust setup? It was just for tax purposes. He said it was to protect us from liability. He wasn't protecting us, Isabella. He was protecting himself. From you. A long pause. Go to my office. Now. Do not use your credit cards. Pay cash for a taxi. Why? Because if he's this thorough, he's monitoring your transactions. And I am not going to be his next target. Get here. The line went dead. An hour later, Isabella stormed into Diego's high-rise office. The confidence was gone. She was disheveled, damp, and vibrating with fury. Diego was not at his desk. He was standing by the window, his back to her, looking down at the city. What did you find? She demanded. The trust, he said, not turning. I found the public shell of it. It's a domestic asset protection trust. It's an iron box, Isabella, legally designed to withstand exactly this. A specified marital action. What specified marital action? I don't know the specifics. They're sealed. But I have a horrifyingly good idea. At that moment, his assistant entered, looking nervous. Mr. Alvarez? A courier just delivered these. One for you and one for Ms. Reyes. They were identical, thick priority envelopes. Not from a standard courier service. The logo in the corner just said R&R. Diego tore his open. His face, already pale, went ashen. He fumbled for his chair and sat down hard. Isabella ripped hers open. It wasn't a lawsuit. It was a single page. Notification of fiduciary breach. What is this? She said, her voice shaking. Diego was reading his own letter, his hand over his mouth. He recorded us, he whispered. What? The meeting. This morning. He recorded everything. My threats. Your demands. The pen. The fake document. That's illegal, she screamed. That's entrapment. We can have it thrown out. No, Diego said, his voice dead. It's not. Florida is a one-party consent state. He was a party to the conversation. He had every legal right to record us in his own office. He finally looked at her, his eyes wide with a terrible, dawning realization. It wasn't a negotiation, Isabella. It was an evidence-gathering operation. We were the hostile action. The trust's hostile action clause. It was us. He baited us, and we. I walked you right into it. He threw his letter on the desk. He's not just freezing you out. He's filing a civil suit against me for conspiracy to commit fraud and professional misconduct. He's going to have me disbarred. You coward. Isabella spat. You're just going to roll over? He's not a builder. Diego roared, slamming his fist on the desk. He's a liquidator. He doesn't sue to win. He sues to end. I can't represent you, Isabella. You're on your own. You need to leave. Now. I'll ruin you. He already has, Diego whispered, sinking his head into his hands. Isabella stood there, the document in her hand feeling like a stone. He was right. She was alone. Her phone buzzed. A number she didn't recognize. It buzzed again. A text. Client urgent. Call me now. It was Claudia Perez, her biggest client. The architect for the $50 million Star Island penthouse. The project that was supposed to make her famous. She stepped into the hallway, took a deep breath, and tried to compose her voice. Claudia, so sorry, I was just in a... Don't, Isabella. Claudia's voice was pure ice. I just got a notification. From my bank. What? What notification? The $200,000 retainer I paid you 3 weeks ago. It was just returned to my account. Isabella's stomach twisted. What? That's a mistake. I'll call the bank. It's not a mistake, Claudia said, her voice sharp. It was returned by the Wyoming Phoenix Trust, along with a note. Isabella felt the air leave her lungs. What note? It's a notice of contractual nullification. It states, a sound of paper rustling, that due to ongoing litigation and fiduciary malfeasance associated with the primary consultant, Isabella Reyes, the trust is voiding all active contracts pending a full ethical review. Claudia, no, that's just my husband. He's angry. It's a domestic dispute. Isabella, Claudia said, and the ice was gone, replaced by something colder, finality. Your husband's firm, Reyes and Reyes, just sent me a list of 3 other, pre-vetted designers they recommend to take over the project immediately. They're not trying to stop the project. They're just removing you from it. You can't do this to me. I already have. My lawyers are on it. I can't be associated with this. Whatever this is. The line clicked dead. Isabella stared at the phone. It was no longer a tool. It was a bomb. Another notification lit up the screen. An email from Architectural Digest. Subject. Your Women in Design feature. Hi Isabella. We're going to have to postpone this feature indefinitely. Our legal team has advised us to wait until your current situation is resolved. All the best. She slid down the wall in the sterile hallway. The lockout was a diversion. The house, the money, that was just the bait. The real target was her name, her reputation, her future, and he had just erased it all in under 2 hours. For 3 days, Isabella existed in a vacuum. She was financially invisible. Her credit cards were plastic blanks. Her bank apps returned only error messages. She had managed to check into a mid-range hotel using the last of the cash in her wallet. A hotel where the carpets were stained and the air conditioning hummed with a desperate, failing rattle. She tried calling lawyers. The first 3 hung up on her. The 4th, a hungry young attorney, took her call. Reyes, the lawyer said. As in, Reyes and Reyes Asset Management. He's my husband. He's stealing everything. A long, heavy sigh. Ma'am, I just looked them up. Their legal counsel is the Wyoming Phoenix Trust. I can't even find out who they are, but their Miami representative is listed as. A click of a keyboard. Elena Reyes. You're not just fighting your husband. You're fighting the trust that is him. I can't take this. No one will. The line clicked. She was an outcast. She had no money, no lawyer, and no name. She had only her car, which was leased in her name alone, one of the few things he hadn't touched, and a full tank of gas. There was only one option left. Not legal, not professional, personal. She didn't have the address for Reyes and Reyes. The card Elena had given her was now just a bitter piece of cardboard in her purse. She drove to the one place she knew he used to go when he was angry or pensive. The old workshop. A rented garage in Wynwood he'd kept 4 projects. She pulled up. The garage door was new. A bright, glaring for lease sign was plastered on it. A quick call to the number confirmed it had been vacant for 6 months. He had cleared out his personal life long before he cleared out their shared one. She threw the phone onto the passenger seat in frustration. But as it lit up, she saw the address she had plugged into her GPS for Diego's office. That was when she'd last seen the card. She pulled Elena's business card from her purse. Reyes and Reyes. Asset Management and Dissolution. The address wasn't in the glittering towers of Brickell. It was in Broward, a nondescript, two-story office park. She drove for 40 minutes, her rage solidifying into a cold, hard knot. The GPS led her to a building that looked like it held dentists' offices and insurance agents. The name on the directory was small, almost an afterthought. R&R Management, STE 210. She didn't knock. She shoved the door open. The office was not what she expected. It wasn't a center of power. It was a center of work. No art, no expensive furniture. Just 6 desks, humming file servers against one wall, and a massive plotter against the other, currently printing a complex architectural blueprint. Mateo was there. He was standing at a large drafting table, sleeves rolled up, examining the blueprint under a bright light. He looked calm. He was not wearing a suit. He was dressed like the carpenter she'd always believed him to be. Elena was at a desk in the corner, on the phone. She saw Isabella, and her face tightened, but she didn't hang up. She simply held up one finger, as if telling a colleague to wait, before turning her back to Isabella and continuing her call in a low, firm voice. The complete lack of panic, the sheer normality of the scene, broke something in Isabella. "You," she shrieked. The word echoed in the sparse room. Mateo looked up slowly. His eyes were not angry. They were not sad. They were just tired. "Isabella, you are trespassing. My home, my clients, my money. You snake. You set me up. You planned all of this. You were recording me." Elena hung up the phone. "Ma'am, I am going to ask you to leave one time. If you do not, I will have you removed. You stay out of this." Isabella screamed, pointing a shaking finger at Elena. "This is between me and my husband." "It stopped being between you and him," Elena said, her voice cold as steel. "The moment you brought a hostile lawyer into his office to strip his assets. That made it a trust matter. And I am the trust." Isabella ignored her, walking straight to Mateo. Why? Why would you do this? You've taken everything. Was it him? Was it Diego? Is all of this theater, because I slept with him?" Mateo laughed. It was a dry, hollow, shocking sound. You think this is about him?" Mateo said, gesturing dismissively. "That I would build a legal fortress like this because of some cheap lawyer? He's a symptom, Isabella. He is not the disease." "Then why?" she cried. "Tell me why." Mateo looked at her for a long, silent moment. "Because you forged my name." Isabella froze. What are you talking about?" 7 years ago, Mateo said, his voice flat, all emotion stripped from it. "The Astra Tech liquidation. My first big solo case. The one that bought the Miami house. The one that paid for your design business." He walked to a heavy, fireproof filing cabinet. He didn't use a key. He pressed his thumb to a biometric scanner. The heavy drawer unlatched with a click. He pulled out a single folder. He didn't hand it to her. He dropped it on the table. "I found a vulnerability," he said. "A $150,000 unsecured transfer. I had to move it fast before the creditors seized it. I put it in our joint savings account. A 24-hour hold before I moved it into a proper escrow. It was the only place I had." He tapped the file. "But you found it first. You thought I was hiding it from you." I don't remember," she whispered, but she was already backing away. "You remember," Mateo said. "You moved it. You bought a sculpture. You routed it through 2 accounts to cover the transfer. But it was a wire. It needed 2 signatures. And you signed my name." He pulled the document from the file. The original authorization. Her signature. And a clumsy, desperate forgery of his. "It was my one rule," Mateo said, his voice dropping, but gaining a terrible intensity. "You don't touch my work. And you never signed my name. You didn't just steal money, Isabella. You committed fraud. You put my entire career at risk. My licenses. My reputation. It was 7 years ago, Mateo. It was a mistake." "No," he said, holding up the forged paper. "It was the prototype. It was the moment I knew. The moment I realized you saw my name, my work, my life, as just a tool for you to get what you wanted. The moment I knew, one day, you would burn the whole house down." He gestured to the humming servers. "This isn't revenge. This is a firebreak. I built the Phoenix Trust the next day. It wasn't built to protect my assets from the world, Isabella. It was built to protect them from you." Isabella stared at the forged document on the drafting table. The evidence was absolute. It was her handwriting, a desperate, clumsy imitation of his. It was, one time, She whispered, her voice hoarse. 7 years ago, you held this? You built this entire thing because of one mistake? It wasn't a mistake, Mateo said, his voice quiet. He didn't look at her. He looked at the blueprint. It was a choice. You showed me who you were. I believed you. The trust wasn't a punishment. It was a preparation. You're cold, she spat. You're not even human. You're a machine. I am precise, he said. I'm a builder. I measure. I test for structural weaknesses. You were a structural failure, Isabella. I didn't want the building to collapse. I just needed to move to a new one. I'll tell everyone, she threatened, but the words were hollow. I'll tell them what you did. I'll tell them what? Elena said, stepping forward. Her voice cut through Isabella's panic. That you committed felony fraud? That you attempted a hostile takeover of assets? That my father recorded you while you were committing another felony in his office? Elena placed a small, cardboard box on the desk. Your personal bank account. The one you opened in Aventura 6 months ago, without his name on it. Isabella froze. He knew about it, Elena said. He let you keep it. It has $14,280 in it. We have not touched it. It is all you have. Isabella stared at Elena, her mind failing to process the totality of his knowledge. I would advise you, Elena continued, her tone like a final judgment, to use that money for a criminal defense attorney. A criminal. The Astra Tech liquidation, Elena said. The one you forged the check for. When you triggered the hostile action clause, the trust automatically began an audit of all associated accounts. The forgery. It's no longer a private matter. It's evidence. The trust compliance department has already forwarded the file to the Astra Tech auditors. You set me up, Isabella whispered. You sent them after me. No, Mateo said, finally looking at her. There was no anger. There was nothing. I didn't have to. The system I built is designed to correct errors. You are an error. The system is just correcting you. Elena pushed the small box toward her. Your personal items from the house safe. Your passport. Your mother's jewelry. You have 1 minute to leave this property before I call the police and have you arrested for trespassing. Isabella's hand trembled as she picked up the box. She looked at Mateo one last time, searching for something. A flicker of regret. A sign of the man she thought she knew. He had already turned back to his blueprints. She walked out. The door clicked shut behind her, the sound of a final, heavy lock engaging. 2 months later, Isabella sat in a cramped, fluorescent-lit office that smelled of stale coffee. The man across from her, a court-appointed public defender, sighed and pushed a document across the desk. Okay, Ms. Alvarez, he said, not looking up. The good news is, the Astra Tech auditors are not pursuing criminal charges for the 7-year-old forgery. A tiny, sharp breath of relief escaped Isabella. So, it's over? No, the defender said. They agreed not to press charges. In exchange for a civil settlement. You've signed over the full amount from your Aventura account. And what? And the court has approved their lien. 40% of your future earnings, for the next 10 years, will be garnished to repay the civil penalty and their substantial legal fees. He pushed another paper toward her. And this is a new summons. It seems Mr. Diego Alvarez is suing you for fraud, conspiracy, and the loss of his career. He's claiming you misled him. Isabella just sat there. She was no longer rich. She was not just poor. She was a liability. A line item on a balance sheet. She was, finally, liquidated. 6 months later, the office in Broward was busier. More desks. 2 young interns were working at terminals. Mateo was at the same drafting table. Elena walked up, placing a fresh cup of coffee beside his hand. The final transfer is complete, Elena said quietly. The Wyoming Phoenix Trust has been officially dissolved. All assets accounted for. Good, Mateo said. The last of the funds, from the sale of the Miami property, they're in the new foundation's account. Are you sure, Dad? Mateo didn't answer. He just tapped the blueprint he was working on. It was not a skyscraper. It was not a fortress. A community center? Elena smiled, a rare, genuine smile. In Wynwood? On the site of the old garage. They need a new foundation, Mateo said. He picked up his pencil. A solid one. You can't build anything that lasts on a weak footing. The structure. It will always fail. He drew a clean, straight, and perfect line. He wasn't a liquidator today. He was a builder.